So, Ginger,
Yeah?
you know how we wanted to start a podcast, but we were having trouble coming up with a topic?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's my pitch. The topic of the podcast is us trying to come up with the topic for the podcast.
What? Like we pitch each other podcast ideas and that's the podcast?
Yeah, exactly. We could call it, What Should Our Podcast Be About?
Miles, that's really stupid. Let's do it.
What should this song be about? I'm trying to figure it out. What should this song be about? Could you perhaps help me out? I've had a moment of doubt. What should this song be about? Welcome to What Should Our Podcast Be About? The podcast where we try to figure out what this podcast that you're listening to right now should be about. I'm Miles Grover.
And I'm Ginger Parham.
We were off again last week because we were sick again.
Yep. We were sick for like 2 weeks. And we're mostly better now.
Starting to get better, but
we're at about 75%.
Yeah, something like that.
I do sound a little bit of like I've got a lot of vocal fry going on right now.
Yeah.
I'm more crackly than normal.
My breathing in general has been like that.
Yeah. Is this the podcast? Should we just talk about our symptoms?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that could be the podcast, I guess. I was going to say one downside is that we missed Halloween as far as being able to post a Halloween episode, a second Halloween episode.
But we're gonna do a Halloween episode anyway, so you get a bonus Halloween.
Yes, basically, you can't stop us from making a Halloween episode.
Yeah, I mean, just try to.
Yeah, just try to do.
You can't because you don't even know we're recording right now.
That's right. The other thing that is going on though is that we're recording this on election night. And so we don't.
Anxiety.
You know something that we don't, which is the new world that we live in after after we record this. So hopefully it's a good one.
Hopefully it's a good one. Or hopefully it is not Trump 2.0.
Greetings to you in the good timeline. Hopefully, in the future. I mean, good. We're putting the good timelining. Good timeline is really overselling it. But the less horrible timeline.
The less awful timeline. We're putting it out there though, that we will be living in the less awful timeline.
I honestly think everybody's so tired of the bad timeline. It's hard to believe we'll really end up there again, but anyway.
If not, we will be looking back and like, last week Miles and Ginger were so young and full of optimism.
Yeah. I did want to say a good, terrible idea for a podcast would be a non-live, pre-recorded, as we're doing, election coverage podcast.
Election coverage that comes out a week after the election.
Right, or even a day after, right?
Yeah.
Whatever.
So if you're still not caught up right now we're at 99 electoral votes for Kamala and 177 for Trump.
Woo. Because they've called like Texas and stuff.
Yeah.
But
actually, they have called Texas.
Yeah. But who cares?
Who cares?
Because I kind of don't even want to get too deep into our stupid election system because I won't stop probably. I think we should probably talk about more fun Halloween stuff.
Yeah.
I just wanted that noted as a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Pre-recorded.
Yeah.
Election coverage.
You're welcome for the update.
Like, is there any more like you need to be paying attention as it's happening thing than something like that, right? Like,
right.
As soon as it's over, no one cares about any.
No one cares
stuff.
What the numbers were.
No one cares about any counties in any state.
Well, they'll care next election.
Right, but exactly.
Well, it'll be 4 years before somebody cares again.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Do you have more Halloween ideas to talk about?
I just want to talk about Halloween. I just want to talk about scary movies, ghosts, our favorite scary songs.
Should we spend a bunch of time trying to figure out our favorite ghosts again?
Yeah.
No.
Well, no, we already did.
I know.
Right? Casper.
I honestly think that's such a basic choice. I would have expected better of you.
That movie was formative for me.
Yeah, okay. I can't even think of other ghosts though. Like, what are the other iconic ghosts?
Jacob Marley.
Okay, that's a pretty good one. Yeah. And then of course the Patrick Swayze ghost we mentioned.
Patrick Swayze.
We did watch Ghost.
We did watch Ghost.
Yeah, so we could talk about that.
That movie holds up pretty well.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I don't even remember there being any like particular like. it wasn't like especially progressive racially or anything, but it also wasn't particularly bad racially, right?
Right. Yeah.
And like, or like in terms of sexist stuff, like there just wasn't really much of any problematic stuff that I noticed.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that the mugger being like a person of color could be problematic, but
Yeah, but it also is necessary for the plot of the movie because he has to. Well, I mean, if you want Whoopi Goldberg to be the sidekick that talks to him, right? Like she's got to be living close to that guy, right? And they're like deep in Brooklyn or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like it all kind of makes sense.
Yeah. And he's not the big bad guy.
Right. The main bad guy is the white guy, right?
Like as bad.
Yeah. And that guy doesn't even have a record apparently.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe woke.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So there's some stuff we could talk about there probably.
Yeah. So other Halloween ideas.
Well, I have some.
Oh, you have some? Because I have some too from my brain, but you can go first.
Well, do you like specific ideas for podcasts? I mean.
Oh, no, I just thought this podcast, we should just talk about Halloween, like scary, spooky things, like our favorite villains. And
okay. So that's your idea for the podcast.
Yes.
Okay.
Halloween, the podcast.
Right. Okay. That's the same idea as last time, which is okay.
Yes.
I have a few more specific ideas. Halloween ideas.
I thought we were just going to do Halloween, the podcast this week.
We're doing the podcast that we do the podcast.
Okay.
And we're going to do something Halloween based.
Okay.
One idea is we rank Halloween candy, like candy corn down at the bottom, that full-sized Butterfinger you got from Mr. Johnson every year because he was the cool guy that gave the full-sized ones or whatever. Maybe up at the top, whatever. I don't know.
Circus peanuts in hell.
Circus peanuts are not a Halloween candy, are they?
I don't know.
I don't think I've ever gotten them. I hope I haven't. That would be a crime of some kind.
I mean, any candy can be a Halloween candy if somebody gives it to you on Halloween.
Yeah, but circus peanuts aren't even candy, really.
Well, I mean, I agree with you. That's why I said they belong in hell.
We could rank them wherever, but I was thinking more
we could rank them in hell.
We could rank them in hell. We could rank different kinds of candy we got for Halloween or Rory got or whatever. You got those lollipops and you got some, I don't know, some like weird squishy Jolly Rancher thing or whatever. Yeah. And, Kit Kats, obviously, right? Like, so anyway, ranking candies, that's an idea.
All right.
Maybe not a super popular one, I guess. Another idea is just fears. Talk about fears. What kind of fears we got?
Okay.
Fears of stuff. Fears of
spiders.
Fears of Draculas.
Multiple Draculas.
Swarms of Draculas.
One Dracula is fine. Swarms, though.
Yeah, but it's kind of one of those things like Daleks where it's like a few Draculas is scary, but if there's 100, you're gonna get saved by Doctor Who probably.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, I don't know. We could talk about real fears or what's scary in like horror movies, right? I know like you seem to experience a lot more like getting scared of stuff in horror movies than I do. Like I'll get startled obviously if there's a jump scare or whatever, but like I never go to bed and need to leave the light on because of what we saw in a movie or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
And I know that you do sometimes, which I'm not saying is bad or anything. Just like we seem to experience them in somewhat different ways.
Yeah. Yeah. We could talk about Oddity and how freaked out that one made me.
Right. And I know like Hereditary was another one that did that.
Yeah.
I don't remember what other ones, but I'm sure you have plenty that have spooked you. Good.
Yeah, I don't have plenty. I love when a movie really, really scares me.
Uh-huh.
I've seen enough horror movies that the ones that stick with me are very few and far between at this point, which is why I get really excited when it happens where I'm like, oh, I'm still freaked out right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have one other sort of specific, somewhat basically Halloween based idea, which is the podcast is called M. Night Shermalock. Because we are going to be detectives trying to figure out what is the deal with M. Night Shyamalan movies, where some of them are actually quite good and a lot of them are extremely fucking bad.
Like
how does he do it? Where like what is up with him? What is the thing that like is there some is there something you can tell about the movie ahead of time that will let you know if it's one of the awful ones or one of the good ones?
Yeah.
Right? Because we watched.
I mean, we knew Old was going to be one of the bad
We knew
ones.
Old was going to be a bad one.
Because it's called Old.
It's called Old. From the trailers, you could tell it was pretty dumb.
Yeah.
But we just recently watched Knock at the Cabin, I think it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Part was one of our horror movies. I don't know if it's exactly a horror movie, but it
was pretty good.
Close enough. Yeah, and it was pretty good. It was weird, and I don't know if I totally understood necessarily a message from it per se, but it was pretty good. The Visit, right? That's one of the ones that's good. The Sixth Sense is good. Like a bunch of them are good. And then there's absolute dog barf, like Old or
The Happening.
Like how does this happening?
Yeah.
Right? Like what is the deal? So I don't know if we could really do it right now. I feel like we'd have to probably do some like watching and like see if we can figure out, is it every other one maybe? Maybe he just like has to crap out another movie before he's ready, and that next one is going to be bad, and then the one after that will be good. Maybe it's something like that. Maybe there's something that like maybe he works with somebody on the good ones.
Yeah.
Like he always collaborates with some, particular, I don't know.
To do some M. Night Shyamalan research.
Yeah.
Okay.
Investigation and yeah.
Because we'll watch a lot of M. Night Shyamalan movies.
Yeah, that would be the idea. We'd have to watch, or I mean, I guess the podcast could be, if it were its own full podcast, we start with Sixth Sense and we work through each one and kind of make a note of what's going on, which ones are good, which ones are bad, which ones are so, whatever. We might have to also go back and watch Stuart Little, because I don't know if you knew this, but he wrote that movie.
I had no idea. Do we really have to?
I don't know. It might give us
count?
some kind of insight. I don't know.
It might give us some insight. Okay.
And that would be the podcast, I guess.
All right.
What do you feel about things that I said?
I like all of them, and I think we should incorporate them into our Halloween podcast.
Okay. So, I mean, I think we're going to have a sort of a shorter episode because we're both still not feeling great.
Yeah.
Which inclines me to think that we should be more focused rather than less focused. But I guess we could kind of
talk about fears. I mean, that one piqued my interest the most, I think. Let's start there. Maybe we talk about some other things, but let's start there.
Yeah. So I know this was my idea, but it just occurred to me that I don't necessarily know what my fears are. Like, obviously I have like regular fears of like, I don't know, I didn't get my taxes done on time. Am I going to get a fine or something or stupid crap like that? That's more of an
anxiety than...
Sure. But I mean, anxiety is just like a kind of smaller fear, really, right? Like, I don't know if I don't know.
Do you don't have any weird fears?
I don't think so. Or nothing I can think of, right? Like, I'm afraid of heights as much as I'm like, I might fall off this height and die.
Yeah.
Right. But I'll go up on top of the, Empire State Building or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not a huge deal.
What about roller coasters?
I'm not afraid of roller coasters, but they do make me sick.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're a little bit afraid of going on rides because you might throw up.
But that's like, I mean, it's not a fear so much as a like.
What about vodka?
Again, I'm not like afraid of it. It's like, I'm not afraid of sticking a nail in my eye, but I know it would be a bad idea to do. You know what I mean?
You should be afraid of that, I think.
Why? I'm not going to do it. There's no there's no danger of it, right? Like, if you just know the consequences of something and therefore avoid doing it, I don't think that's really like a fear. It's not an emotional thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah.
Well, I'm afraid of spiders.
Right. And I'm like a little bit afraid of spiders.
I'm slowly getting over it.
I'll see a spider and go, huh. And then be like, oh, it's a spider.
Yeah. I mean, like...
You've been pretty chill with spiders lately, I feel
We
like.
haven't gotten any of the, like, huge ones like we got when I was a kid.
Yeah, they don't live here.
Yeah. But in Washington, they had the big, like, black... Like, wolf spiders, but they're harmless, but they're really big and scary looking. And we got those all the time.
Right.
In my house growing up. And that's, I think, where a lot of my fear came from. But we just get like the little guys here, little like translucent brown guys that are like, I don't know, size of a quarter or something. They're not like...
Most of them are a lot smaller than even a quarter, right? I mean, but I assume by a quarter you mean including the legs.
Including the legs,
right.
Yeah.
And I would say most of them are even smaller than that.
Yeah, I mean, they're just... it's helped me to be like, this is just a little guy.
Yeah.
He's really afraid of me.
Right.
he, she.
And he's probably going to eat some of the stuff I don't want to deal with, right?
Yeah. So I've been trying to like shift my mindset, and that's helped.
Right.
I still like, I'm not like going up to hold them or anything.
Yeah.
I'm still like keeping my distance, and like I need to know where they are at all times.
Right.
That's like, they can move around on the ceiling all they want. I just need to know where they are.
I think for me, in terms of like a primal fear of creepy crawly things, I've kind of come to a point where like spiders, I mean, if a spider's like running towards me, I'm going to jump out of the way, right? But the ones that are also harmless but still do freak me out a bit is those like centipedes that have like a bajillion little
the house centipedes.
The house centipedes. They got a ton of,
which are also good little guys.
I don't know what they do.
They are supposed to like take care of a lot of like bad bugs.
Yeah, I
in your
just
house.
do not care for the way they look when they're running around. They got too many fucking legs.
Well, the good thing is that they're usually gone pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, I've killed a few of them.
Well, you shouldn't kill them.
Because I see it and I go, and smack it.
Don't do that anymore.
But yeah, or a couple times I've drowned them in the bathtub. Because I was doing something in the bathtub and it runs up and I'm like, And so I
Really? You've seen them in the bathtub?
I've seen like 3 in the bathtub, actually. Yeah. But again, like it's a fear that I have to some extent, but it's also a very easily overcomable fear, right? Like if I had to interact with it for some reason, or even just leave it alone, because now I probably will, right? Like not just because you just said it, but because I know that they're not, or you and I recently read or watched something that talked about how they're harmless and good or whatever.
They're good. Yeah.
So like, I will intellectually be able to say, hey, it's just a little guy, even though he's got way too many legs. That's not his fault.
Which, you can say the same thing about spiders.
Well, true. Right. Exactly. And you get used to stuff, whatever. But so again, it's like, I do have this like sort of basic fear of them, I guess. Fear is what you would call it, I guess, where I'm like,
it's like things that could startle you and you're like, it's going to crawl up my nose and kill me.
Right. Or even just crawl on me and feel bad.
I'm not gonna, it just moves too quickly.
It's too quick, too many legs. I can't keep track of them.
Yeah.
And they're not just too many legs, because lots of centipedes and stuff got too many legs. And to be fair, they're all also freaky, but the legs are long and spindly.
Yeah.
I don't like it. But again, like,
I don't love them. I'm not nearly as bothered by them as you are.
But I'm also not ever thinking about them if I'm not seeing them.
Right.
I'm never sitting there like, what if there's some near me or something? Like, I don't harbor the fear.
What about fear of the dark?
Yeah,
because I feel like that one is primal, like it's like a defense mechanism to be afraid of the dark because there could be predators hiding.
Yeah. And that's, it's not like I definitely, feel a certain amount of unease or whatever if I'm in the dark somewhere I'm not familiar with, I guess. But like when the lights are off and I'm lying in bed, I'm not like afraid something could be in the room, right?
See, I think I wonder, like, some of that I think has to come along with being like a woman versus a man in the world.
Yeah.
Right.
And we've talked about that a bit in the past on the podcast, I think.
Yeah. Because like I'm definitely scared walking alone at night in a way that you probably aren't.
Sure. But even walking alone is much more vulnerable than almost any time I'm actually in the dark, right? Most of the time I'm in the dark, I'm at home, just in my dark room or whatever.
Yeah. And I'm usually fine with that. Now, after we watched Oddity.
Yeah.
So in the movie Oddity, there is a woman who is like camping out basically in this old house. And the cat just jumped and startled me because I was already just thinking about it. She goes out to the car to get something, leaves the door of the house open. She comes back and this guy is knocking on the door and telling her that he saw somebody go inside. And so she's now in this situation where she has to decide, do I open the door and let this person in who might hurt me? Or do I stay inside risking that I'm really in here with somebody who wants to hurt me?
Right.
And she was like looking for ghosts, basically. She had a camera set up on a time lapse.
Right.
So at one point she grabs the camera, zips herself into the tent, starts going through the photos on the camera and sees someone.
Right.
And then she unzips the tent and he's standing there. And I'm getting chills just recounting it. And I think it just was such a real situation. Like, it felt like a real situation that could happen, you know?
Right.
Like, where you're in this situation where you don't know what to do. Do I let this person in? Like, is there someone in here with me? Like, either the worst thing that I could think of is somebody saying, like, there's someone in the house with you. Like,
right.
And you're there alone.
I saw someone go in while you were out here.
Yeah.
Like, because you're in a double bind of fear, right? Because if you let them in, they might hurt you. And if you don't, you might get hurt.
Yeah. And I mean, like, not to come back too much to like women and men, but like, if you're someone who's femme, like, you just have lived with that fear.
Right. Sure.
And so it just like, it hit all my buttons.
Right.
And I know there's not anyone in our house, but I was still like in a headspace where I'm like I feel like more comfortable if I can see all the corners of the room.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I obviously the dark is part of it just because it represents unknown, the unknown in general, I guess. Right. Unknown parts of your house. You don't know what's in the house or who might be with you or whatever. But thinking about what you just said and kind of the theme of stuff we've been saying, you're kind of just talking about fear of men, right? Like, you kind of have a fear of men, which is not unjustified in our society. Which is funny too, because there is that we considered watching a movie. I think it's just called Men. Yeah, like a horror movie. It looks like it's like the same guy everywhere or something. I don't. Yeah, didn't really get a great idea what the movie was about from the trailer, but
looked interesting. Maybe be a watch next year.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say being afraid of men is a weird fear for sure. I mean, that's probably a pretty common one.
Yeah, it's just kind of a low lie. It seems like it's like a low-lying, like a low-grade thing you have to deal with all the time, sort of. Yeah. Right? Because there are men around and they could do something.
We all, like, you just grow up knowing, make sure you look around the parking lot before you, like, go to pay attention to opening your car door.
Right,
hold your keys like a weapon. Like, like all the things that you just... like, you know, to like go down well-lit streets, like you're strategic about your paths, like, oh, that doesn't look very well lit, or there's not many people around, so I guess I'm not going to go that direction.
I mean, if you think about what we take precautions about in society in general, like, why do we lock our doors? It's not because the animals are going to come open the door. It's because men might come open the door. Right. And obviously, like, sometimes women do stuff too, but by and large, it's
men, yeah.
Which like isn't necessarily even a condemnation of men in general. Like, men are the, like, you know, testosterone is the thing that makes you do the stuff that we don't like, that we're talking about, right? Yeah. Like, it's what it's, you know, if you, as far as you want to get down to biological essentialism type stuff, like, that's what men are for, is, you know, hunting. And not that women can't and didn't hunt, but like, that's sort of why men are built differently than women, is for that sort of thing, aggression and fighting and defending and stuff too. But like, yeah,
it's terrifying.
But
it's terrifying if you're not a man.
Yeah, it can be very scary.
Yeah,
I mean, even if you are a man, like, men are still you know, if you're going to suffer violence or domestic violence, even, or abuse or anything, you're most likely to get it from a man. Yeah. Right. And again.
Yeah. I mean, you had a dude at the theater wanted to like take you outside and fight you.
We talked about that. But
I've never experienced that one, at least.
Yeah. That was just pretty silly. But, and, you know, it's not like I've never had, you know, anger, you know, take too much control of me or break something or that kind of thing. Yeah. Something that my ADHD diagnosis and medication actually helps with a lot is like, well, just basic emotional control, but, you know, anger being the one that needs the most control, I guess, probably. Yeah. That's been helpful for me. So
I find it helpful to take Miss Rachel's advice.
Yeah. And count to 10 or whatever.
Count to 10.
Or she's got a whole chart. She's got a whole chart. But also,
just like, I think the most important, I think that the Miss Rachel thing I love the most is when she's just constantly going, feelings come and feelings go.
Right.
And I think that is a great thing to remember, is there've been a lot of times where I'm angry or I'm like, or frustrated or just, feeling despondent where I go, this is not going to last forever.
This too shall pass.
And when I don't feel like this, it's not going to seem as big. So
yeah. Miss Rachel has a whole chart of like activities you can do to try to calm down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is great. I mean, like, I think one of the interesting, we're getting away from fear stuff, but I think one of the interesting things about parenting is like, you're also kind of reparenting yourself.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, because these are not skills that we really were taught as children.
Yeah. To get back to fear and to maybe be less bummery, let's talk about less real society thing fears.
Okay, do you want to hear one of my weird fears that I had that I had growing up?
Sure.
I had this irrational fear that when I was walking alone, I had an irrational fear of like accidentally witnessing something I shouldn't.
Okay.
And like somebody actually being able to like read my mind or like know that I witnessed something.
Right.
And so I would like deliberately, like if I thought that maybe I was seeing something suspicious, like look away or try to like think about something else. Oh, what am I going to have for dinner tonight? Or like,
right.
Yeah. But I had this fear, not so much anymore, but when I was younger, I had this fear of accidentally witnessing a crime.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That did just trigger a memory for me of in my backyard, as a kid, we had this like big like end of a tube. It was like, I don't know if it was metal or ceramic or something. I really don't know what it was made of, but it was big and industrial and like probably, I don't know, 3 feet long or something, just kind of sitting in our backyard for whatever reason. And, it was the kind of thing where like at a certain point I could sit in it and then kind of bend and fold up and be all the way in it and not be able to get out. And so I kind of got stuck like that one time, I think, and took a while before somebody like came and helped me get out of it. And so I do have sort of a fear, again, not one I think about very much, and not one that's like super irrational, I guess, but of like getting stuck in a really close space, right? Like, like those divers do sometimes, or spelunkers and stuff. Like, that would be absolutely horrible.
Did you ever see that episode of Punky Brewster?
No, I don't.
Where they get stuck, where one of the kids gets stuck in the old refrigerator.
Oh, maybe.
They're playing hide and seek.
Maybe.
And she like almost dies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that gave me a little bit of a fear of enclosed spaces.
Yeah. It's not like enclosed space. You know what it is? It's like, it's a space where I'm like, if I like in Star Trek, they're always in those Jeffries tubes or whatever. Like if I'm in a tube and it's too small for me to turn around.
Yeah.
I really don't like that.
Yeah.
Right. Any kind of like space that's small enough that I can't maneuver my body into a different position. That's too small.
Yeah.
Which again, I don't think is terribly, irrational or anything.
Like a claustrophobia, but like healthy claustrophobia.
Which like all the like phobias are something, or most of them are something reasonable, just taken too far. Right?
Yeah.
Like it's reasonable to be afraid of falling off a building.
Right.
But being so afraid that you can't even just go up there and be 20 feet from the edge or whatever is irrational. Yeah. So but yeah, I don't know. Like, what about like more specifically for horror stuff? Like, what was it that made you need to keep the lights on for Hereditary?
I mean, it was the same thing. It was the dark. It's the scene. There's a scene where she's like on the wall,
right?
And they did it really well because it's like lit in such a way that like. You sort of think there's something there.
But you can't really be sure.
But you can't be sure. But then it lingers on there long enough for your eyes to like adjust. And then you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
She's on the wall. And then she moves.
Yeah.
Like in a kind of spider-like way, sort of way. Yeah. But, and that was very much like, it's a fear of the dark thing.
Right. So you're like, I don't know what could be in the dark.
Yeah.
It could be
I just need to be able to see all the corners.
Could be Toni Collette coming to get me. So I better keep the lights on.
Yeah. I did the same thing after I read Gerald's Game too. And it was like, because she kept like seeing a tall figure in the corner of the room and wasn't sure if it was really there or not. And Like, yeah, something about like dark and corners. I like.
But like, it is, I mean, you know that it's not rational, right?
I know
So-
that it's not rational, but I also know that like if I turn the light on just a little bit, I am not going to keep replaying it and thinking about it in my head as much.
Because yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like, what is your thought process as you're, I don't know, trying to go to bed and it's dark?
Yeah, it's very much like I just need a little nightlight so that my mind isn't.
Just to take it off your mind.
Yeah, so that my mind isn't like it's going to keep it from replaying over and over in my head, which will definitely keep me up.
Right. Sure.
So it's not the space I want to be in when I'm going to sleep.
So it's kind of just the imagery
Mhm.
freaks you out so much you need to be a little bit not reminded of it so well or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, I need a little bit of coziness.
Do you have other kinds of fear that you get from horror movies? Because I was thinking about it the other day, and like the sort of signature thing about horror movies is that they're supposed to be scary, right? But I don't think I really ever experienced fear from horror movies. Like I experienced lots of things, like being upset about something,
Yeah.
right? Or being, kind of like anxious about what's about to happen, or, getting startled, if you want to call that, I guess, some kind of fear, I guess.
I feel like anxiety and like getting startled are types of fear.
Kind of,
Because
yeah.
anxiety is like a manifestation of a fear.
Right. I mean, we said that earlier. It's like a little fear kind of,
Yeah.
but it doesn't, it's more like, I don't know. It's more like a cringe almost feeling of like, oh God, something stupid's going to happen to this guy or,
Yeah.
or whatever. I don't know.
I feel like I'm pretty susceptible to jump scares.
Yeah. I mean, I'm reasonably susceptible to them too, just because like they're a reflex, right? Like, obviously, if you're a super jaded person, you could expect them, and maybe you watch so many horror movies or whatever, oh, there's about to be one. There was. But like, all you got to do, like, if I'm facing, west, I guess, just to pick a random direction, and someone, behind me to the east, directions are not that important. But anyway, like, bangs a stick on a pot, and I wasn't expecting it, I'm going to be startled, right? I'm going to go, but like, I'm not afraid of people with a pot and a stick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's just a fear, like a fear response, I guess, but it's not a fear really to me. Like, it's not an emotional thing again. Like, I don't, it doesn't affect me emotionally other than that moment of spiking adrenaline or whatever.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is just, are there other kinds of things that make you feel like fear, or maybe we should just talk more generally about the kinds of emotions that you get during horror movies? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, anything involving kids or babies,
Yeah.
like, gives me more fear than it used to, even.
Would you say that the other times, I guess I would say that seems like you are experiencing fear during a movie is when you like reach out for my hand?
That's when I know a jump scare is coming.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that's just an anticipation of a jump scare kind of fear.
Yeah.
Quote unquote fear.
Yeah. Like, when it gets drawn out a really long time, I'm like, I know it's coming. I just get so tense
Right.
because I know it's coming.
Yeah. Or something
Or if
horrible's
somebody's like doing something where you're like, no, don't do that.
Right.
Don't do that. What do you do? No. And then my anxiety needs somewhere to go. So I grab your hand.
Right. I feel like there's a sort of fine line in horror movies of that kind of like, no, don't go in there. The bad guy's in there, where it's like, if the movie's done it right, it's like the person in the movie's doing something normal or reasonable or like well motivated, and they just don't know what we know, right?
Right.
And so there's a fear caused by the I think the technical term there is dramatic irony, right? Like, we know something that the character doesn't know.
Right.
But then there's also a lot of times where it's like, why would you do this? That's a completely stupid thing to do.
Mhm.
I don't know for sure there's a monster in there, but there probably is, given that I'm watching a horror movie, and this is just a lame contrivance to get you into a dangerous situation as a character or whatever.
Yeah.
Which totally takes me out and makes me annoyed rather than anxious or whatever.
Yeah. I think it was maybe Barbarian that we were watching, where she went down and she found like the like tunnel or whatever, and she was like, nope.
She was like, nope, and noped out of there.
Yeah, and I was like, that's the correct response.
Yeah.
I mean,
although
she ended up fucked anyway, but
well, so then later the guy comes back or whatever, and he goes down to investigate, and then she like follows him way down there
because she was worried about him. Like, so that was her motivation.
Yeah, but it made sense. But it's like get help. You know, don't just go down. And I mean, like, bad stuff ended up happening. So not to spoil that movie or anything, I guess. But
it's a good movie.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I don't know. It's pretty good, I guess.
I enjoyed it.
It was still kind of a dumb horror movie. It had kind of a goofy joke towards the end in terms of like that guy being like, oh, she can't get in here. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But so like,
I don't know. I enjoyed it.
Stuff that was
I enjoyed
like,
it.
Whatever. It was also it seemed like it was the writers had Me Too, the Me Too movement on their mind really heavily during the writing of that movie.
Yeah, Justin Long plays an absolutely awful character.
Yeah.
The transition to his storyline was a little jarring.
Right.
But it was good. I enjoyed that one a lot.
I think there was a lot of undertones of the same stuff with the girl interacting with the guy.
Yeah.
With Bill Skarsgård or whatever at the beginning too.
Which was all fair.
Which was mostly fine, but yeah.
Yeah.
What do you feel like is a satisfying horror movie to watch, or a fun or a good
Well, I mean, anything that sticks with me and scares, like in a scary kind of way, is always good. I think the number one like thing that a horror movie has to do well is like the tension, like drawing it out just enough. But you know, like you can go too far the other direction where it's like all tension and no payoff.
Right. For me, I can't help but think about what is this movie about? What are kind of what's it really about, right? Like Barbarian, you could say it was in some ways is about like, you know, what do you know about your neighbors? What are they really doing in there? What does it mean to be like a community versus like a lone kind of person? And
yeah, I thought it was interesting the way that like at one point when she's going into the house, like the guy's running up and you think he's like attacking her, the like homeless guy.
Right.
But then you find out later that he was actually trying to help her.
Right.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. And so I'm always thinking about those kind of themes, or if I'm not thinking about those themes, it's either because it's a really good horror movie that I'm so engaged with that I can't think about stuff like that because I'm, you know, too scared or something or whatever it is, which I'm not sure I can think of one that's happened.
What about Ready or Not?
I
feel like that one was fun and engaging, and
that one's definitely pretty clear on some themes you're thinking about while you're watching it in terms of like class and stuff though, right?
Yeah.
Or it's a really bad horror movie where I'm not even thinking about that. I'm like, this is the stupidest movie. Blah, 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 whatever. Which I think is why, like, I guess what I'm saying is I tend to over intellectualize when I watch movies in general. And horror movies are not, I say over intellectualize. That's just how I do things, right? Like I intellectualize it. And not everybody does that, and that's fine. But that's why I think Cabin in the Woods is probably my favorite horror movie, because it's rewarding to do that. That's what you're trying to do to understand what's going on in the movie.
Right. But not particularly a scary movie.
No, but it does tension, and it the first time you see it, like those zombies are kind of scary and stuff, right?
I suppose it's hard to judge when you've seen a movie as many times as you've seen that one.
Yeah, we've both seen that movie 10, 20 times probably, or if not more.
Possibly more,
yeah. And I'll pretty much watch that movie anytime because...
We didn't watch it this year.
Yeah, but we watched it this year, just not during this.
We usually watch it every Halloween. Didn't watch it this Halloween.
But we watched it earlier in the year. Like, we watched it somewhat recently, I feel like. One movie that I did feel like kept me fairly engaged, I mean, I was still thinking about the themes and stuff, but was Longlegs.
Mm-hmm.
Just because that character was so strange and I was kind of trying to figure him out.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, while he's in the movie. And then after, you know, towards the end, it was a little bit of a normalish kind of horror movie sort of thing of...
Trying to avoid giving spoilers for this movie.
It's a good movie.
It's a newer one.
But Nicolas Cage does a really Nicolas Cage kind of performance that nobody else could probably give.
Yeah.
But he's also in like a lot of prosthetic makeup and stuff, so he looks very different.
Yeah.
It was an intriguing
Unsettling.
movie. Yeah, unsettling. Definitely, horrific or whatever. It's lots of children being killed and stuff. But there's something. I guess I like a horror movie when there's something unique like that about it, where it's just like this really weird guy as part of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good one. I don't know how scary I found that one.
Yeah.
But it was very atmospheric and like a creepy kind of way that stuck with you a little bit.
Yeah. Like I enjoyed the weird creepiness of the Nicolas Cage's character's performance, where like I would consider watching it again, right?
Yeah.
A lot of horror movies I'm like, yeah, okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Even pretty good ones.
Yeah.
But that one is like intriguing enough that I would maybe watch it again, I guess.
Yeah, I would watch that one again.
All right. Well, I don't know. Was there anything else you wanted to bring up before we wrap up this little bit shorter episode?
I think I've covered most of my fears.
Okay.
Yeah.
We talked about your fears.
Yeah.
Broadcast them to the world.
Broadcast them to the world.
Everyone in the world now knows that I'm not afraid of anything.
I know one thing you're afraid of.
What's that?
Something happening to Rory or something happening to Svetlana.
Yeah. Okay.
A protective fear.
Yeah. It's not something I think about specifically, but it is something
But you
that
do,
certainly could
like-
trigger me
Like
being afraid.
if
Yeah.
Rory's like trying to run into the street. Or,
Yeah. Or like I look away and then I don't know where he is for a second.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Which I think is also a healthy fear.
Yeah. I'm obviously not afraid of anything, but I don't have any like personality defining fears, I guess.
Yeah.
Which feels a little boring. I feel like I
Yeah.
need to spice up my personality with
Like I'm terrified of balloons. My mom's afraid of balloons.
my friend Dave that I play games with is like phobic of plants. I guess.
Huh.
It doesn't come up very
All
often.
plants?
I guess.
Any plants?
I don't know. I guess.
Like grass? Is grass okay?
I don't know. I think it's like house plants or something.
Okay.
I honestly don't know that much about it. It was just something like we kind of talked about. Like I knew him 20 plus years ago when I was here for school, and now we hang out occasionally again. But
Do you just watch Little Shop of Horrors too many times as a kid?
maybe I do remember him saying at some point like, you don't get to choose what you're afraid of. It's like, yeah, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
You got kind of stuck with a weird sort of lame one, but
yeah.
Anyway, I need something. So I need to think.
So you are in a unique position where you could choose.
I could decide. I could decide. Okay, I'm going to be afraid of squirrels.
I know a couple Scottish people that are afraid of butterflies.
Yeah, I don't think I would go for that one.
It's weird to me.
And moths are kind of cool. Moths are like goth butterflies.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting to me. Like
maybe there's some kind of bug I can find to be afraid of or something. I don't know.
Well, you've got those little house centipedes.
Yeah, I guess. A little bit. Maybe I
Cockroaches?
need to go more in on that. Oh, I just don't like cockroaches. I
Yeah.
don't want to think about them.
Yeah.
All right. Well, shall we wrap up our fears there?
Yes.
Wait, we need a
Wrap them up.
We need
Wrap
an
'em up.
episode title. The Fears podcast of fears. Fearcast. Tell me your fears.
Scary podcast to listen to in the dark.
Okay, maybe that. All right. Well, should we do our social media and then?
Yeah. Find all of our links to our social media on our website, which is coolpodcast.website. You can email us your ideas at coolpodcast.website. And follow us on Instagram and Threads at What Should Pod. We're also on YouTube. And that's it. That's all I got.
Welcome to What Should Our Outro Be About, the outro where we try to figure out what this outro that you're listening to right now should be about. I'm still here.
And I'm also still here.
I have one horrifying fact.
Okay. Just one.
Just one. And then I don't know if I have anything else to talk about. So
We were going to scream, but I don't think we're well enough for that.
My voice won't do it, probably.
Okay, what's your horrifying fact?
It's like truly kind of horrifying. It's horrified me a little bit.
Am I going to have to turn the lights on?
No, not that kind of horrifying.
Okay.
More body horror, I guess.
Oh, no.
The fact is, some humans are born with a cloaca.
What?
Specifically,
No.
women, or at least vagina having people, because all three of their orifices like merge inside their body before coming out.
Well,
So they end up with one hole on
that's
the outside.
awful.
And it's like 1 in 50,000.
Is it fixable?
I think so, but I kind of stopped reading the Wikipedia article pretty quickly.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, I was like, I wish I didn't know about this.
Yeah.
And so now you get to know
Now
about it.
everyone gets to know.
Yep.
Well, that's horrific.
Pretty horrible.
Yeah.
So that's all I got.
Yeah. Okay.
Might have made you want to scream a little bit.
Ah,
Cloaca.
no.
All right.
Well, all right.
Well, okay, I guess we're done. Hey, friends, we forgot to do a secret phrase this episode, I guess because we were both quite tired and wanting to get to bed. But so if you aren't aware, every episode we now are doing a secret phrase. And if you are the first person to post the secret phrase in the comments on Spotify or YouTube or, our Facebook page or wherever we might see it, if you're the first person to post the comment with the secret phrase, then you are the winner of that episode. And as the winner, you are entitled to request a drawing from me if you want. And Ginger will sing you a song. Anyway, the secret phrase for this episode, which I am just making up right now as I'm finishing editing the episode, is turkey explosion fart. Turkey explosion fart. That's what came out of my mouth. So those are the words that you have to type into the comments if you want to win the episode. And so, yeah, sorry about that, but good luck. And now back to the very end of the episode. Thanks for listening. We're sorry and we won't do better next time. Bye.
What was that podcast about? I'm trying to figure it out. Didn't catch what that was about.